Well, good evening, everyone. Friday evening, man. Welcome to the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast, man. Of course, we're brought to you by Rocky Mountain Sports Network. We're sponsored by Morgan Trinkets, man. But more than anything, man, we're in here. We're talking Denver Broncos football. It's all about you guys in the chat, man. Our agendas have been thrown out the window week after week. We're going to try to get to some of it tonight. Man. I am your host. My name is Keith Brugman, man, but I'm not alone. Got three of the four horsemen on the screen this evening. I'm one of them. I'm going to kick it over. I'll kick it over to Mr. Trevor Salzman to start, man. The Rocket Man. How you doing, sir?
Doing well, Keith. Excited to be here on a great Friday night, and just 1 week closer to start training camp and start of the NFL season.
Yes, man. The lull, the gap, the one time when we really don't have anything to talk about regarding football, and if we do, it's usually not good. So we'll keep that off to the side, man. We'll keep it all good. We're going to go right down to Jody, the Judge Moncrief himself. How we doing, Judge?
Doing good. Ready to talk some Broncos football tonight. Get some good debates going.
I agree, man. Figured I would talk about the agenda right off the bat, man. This is what is on the agenda. We got a little bit of inside linebacker talk, man. Talk about who's on the roster, who can fill some voids. Maybe we'll get into, maybe get into some free agents that may be out there that could help fill some voids in that regard. And lastly, there's some big contracts out there looming. Don't get excited, Trevor. It's not a contract for you. I know that you're looking for big money these days, man. But that being said, man, big contracts looming when it comes to Patrick Surtain and Quinn Meinerz. And man, like to get the deals done. Like to see those guys be Broncos for a long time around here. If we get a chance, we're going to get talking about those guys as well. But let's kick it off with those inside linebackers, guys. Inside linebackers on this roster. Josey Jewell, man. It's funny to me. I don't know how you guys feel. I'll ask Jody this question to start, man. Wasn't that long ago for me, man. It didn't seem like we had an answer at inside linebacker. We were researching. Josey Jewell gets hurt. He was the big question mark. And all of a sudden, man, he seemed to solidify there, man. He seemed to be that guy. It's enough of a guy that he went off and got paid someplace else. To me, it was a quick transition, and his value went pretty high pretty quick. What are your thoughts on that, Jody?
Yeah, I think he kind of got priced out of Denver. I mean, Carolina paid him a big deal. I don't think he was elite, but he was definitely a solid player. I mean, he wore the green dot. He made big plays. And it is one position on this team that I am probably the most worried about. We really have not done anything to upgrade from him. So it's probably the biggest question mark for me. Everyone that said the grass is greener on the other side, we're about to find out. Not great, but he was solid and tried to replace somebody like that.
Yeah, we'll start talking about those potential replacements for one Josey Jewell, but I do want to get Trevor's thoughts on that as well. Like I said, for a while there, I didn't know if Josey Jewell was going to be that guy with injuries, and we were kind of hoping. And, again, he was not supposed to necessarily he was supposed to be that guy. He was supposed to be that guy. It was Alex Singleton that took the place of Jonas Griffith. But that being said, kind of a quick rise and then a quick exit for Broncos country as far as getting paid and going to the Carolina Panthers. What are your thoughts on Josey Jewell, the value that he brought, the expertise that he brought, and the void that he's going to leave?
Yeah, I mean, I think Josey Jewell, again, he got paid from Carolina, but I think if the Broncos really wanted to keep him around, I think they could have done it. I think this is something where I think the Broncos wanted to move on. They felt like their money could be used elsewhere. We've seen them bring back Justin Strnad just fine when he was supposed to go elsewhere, right? And we've seen the same thing with a guy like Adam Troutman. He was supposed to go elsewhere at first. Then Sean Payton comes in and offers him a deal to come back, so he came back. So Denver really wanted to keep Josey Jewell. They could have kept him. They didn't want to keep him. He moved to Carolina. That's what it was. To me, they're missing him in coverage. I think the coverage is a big thing. I think he's very good in pass coverage. I think he's a guy that, again, wore the green dot. He was a guy that was a leader on the defense side of the ball. Another leader that you lost. That's two leaders, in my opinion, on the defense side of the ball that you lose. It's very hard going to be hard to replace Josey Jewell and then, of course, Justin Simmons. So for me, I think that he's just a really good. I don't think he's elite like Jody said, but I think he's solid in the passing game. I think certainly Denver, to me, I wish they would have done more to upgrade there because I don't think Cody Barton is that guy, in my opinion. Jonas Griffith, maybe we'll see. But again, he hasn't played in 2 years. So they can't fill every position, I understand, with where they're at in the cap. But again, they're still going to miss out with Josey Jewell, and someone's going to have to step up, or they're going to have to go on the free agency market to go get that guy. It remains to be seen what they end up doing.
Yeah, for me, I mean, you hit on the head. First and foremost, he is the coverage linebacker. When you talk about Singleton and Jewell back there, you think it'd be Singleton, and Singleton ranks up a ton of tackles. But as far as coverage, you'd like to see a lot more out of Singleton. I'll just put it that way. And Jewell was that guy that if you had to rely on a tight end getting covered out of the backfield, you better hope he lines up on Jewell comparatively to Singleton, and the stats prove that out. That's a big loss, and that's the one thing that we're really going to have to keep an eye on and take a look at when we start evaluating these guys, because we can say we have a thumper in an Alex Singleton in a lot of ways, but we need that coverage guy still. Like to see some growth from Alex Singleton, but coverage is definitely going to be needed. And yeah, we're asking a lot for Alex to step up and wear that green dot on a consistent basis and get everybody in line and get everybody ready and make sure that everyone's going in the right direction. That's going to be key. See how he can adapt that out as well. So I've been leaving Ernie May's comment on the screen, but I haven't addressed it. So we'll address a couple of them. Got to get to Ernie May's first, though. He says, "Go Broncos country only." Hello, Keith and Trevor and Jody. And I got to say, Ernie May's, thank you. Yeah, hats off. Big salute to you. Absolutely. Ernie May's has been a fantastic supporter here, and I just want to thank you right here and right now, Ernie May's, because before I even placed an ad, he's already posting out there that he can't wait for our show. And that just means a lot to me, Ernie. I appreciate that a ton. We also have Patrick Wiltsey coming in here saying, "Aloha, boys. Aloha, posse. I am itching for some football. I really think this season will be one of extremes, either better than expectations or just a dumpster fire." Kind of scared, actually, but I will stay with my prediction of 8-1. So he's like, here's my prediction, but I don't think either it's going to be right. It's going to be one way or the other. It's either going to go off the charts or it's going to be a dumpster fire. So hoping it's the better of the two. But Patrick, thank you very much, by the way. Like I said, coffee connoisseurs, get your Lion Coffee, lioncoffee.com. And then Miss Pearl coming in right now saying, "Hello all, Miss Pearl and her brand new corgi and all of her amazing trinkets we'll be talking about later." But hello, Pearl. How are you? Glad that you could make it. We're talking a little bit of inside linebackers, and I know this was kind of your idea, your topic, so I'm going to let you kind of kick it off a little bit on this, Trevor. Let's start talking about the roster, who we have, and who could fill the void. We want to go maybe 3 deep, you were saying. So who's your first guy that you can maybe do? Or if I'm saying that wrong, please correct me.
No. I want to finish. I'm kind of get an idea of where our starters are at. I don't want to go too deep into what this roster looks like, just because we have plenty of time. We haven't seen these guys play, so things can change and can change in a hurry. So for me, obviously we got to start with Alex Singleton. I think he's going to be your starter inside linebacker. One of your starters, just to say, he's your run stuffer, right? He's your guy that it has to take on that leadership role that Josey Jewell's leaving behind. So, I think Alex Singleton. I think one thing Vance Joseph in this Broncos defense is going to have to do is be able to stop the run better. That starts with Alex Singleton. I think they put him in a little bit of a rough spot last year with the defensive line not being as good against the run. So I think he'll be better positioned this season when it comes to just making plays. He don't always have to be up by the defensive line trying to stop the run game as much. I think that he can kind of play that inside linebacker position better than he could be. Again, it takes a lot, I think, on your legs and just on your body in general when you're always relied upon to tackle guys a lot. And it can lead to missed tackles. It can lead to a lot of different things. So I think Denver just helping, Alex Singleton in general. I think just helping him in general is something they've done a good job at. And I think upgrading the defensive line, in my opinion, is actually going to be huge for this inside linebacking core. And I think that starts with Alex Singleton first.
Yeah, Alex Singleton, I think, is obviously got to be that guy you penciled in there. I had a chuckle just for a second before I go to Jody. You said the defensive line wasn't good against the run. I thought you were just going to just end it before the end of that sentence and just be the defensive line wasn't good, because I can't remember them being all that great against the pass either. But I digress. I'll go over to Jody. Jody, we're just going down. Alex Singleton was the first choice for Trevor. I would imagine that might be the first choice for you as well, but we can go different if we like, and I'll go all the way around the horn with myself as well.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback off of what Trevor said. I mean, he was top 5-6 in tackles last year. I mean, he's just the lunch pail type guy, blue collar, makes a lot of tackles. You've seen Vance Joseph like to bring him on third down with blitzes. And as thin as we are at that position, he is the one returning starter there, and he's definitely the leader there. What's he been, 3 years now? This will be his third year there. So, yeah, I mean, that's an easy one. He's definitely a starter. He's definitely the number one linebacker for us.
I'll pencil him in as well. The only thing I'll add to everything great that you said about Alex Singleton, guys, is, of course, because he's a former MSU Bobcat right up here in Montana State University. So he went from there to being an Eagle to being a Bronco. And, geez, I'm looking for him to come back up to Bozeman one of these days and maybe put on a little clinic. Come on, Alex, get back up here to Montana. We need you up here. So that being said, I'll keep it going around the horn. I see a fantastic question and comment by Phil McLaughlin I'm going to get to here in a second, but I'll go one more turn around on this linebacker, and then we'll get to Phil's comment. Trevor, who do you got number 2?
Yeah, for me, again, this is one of the tougher positions, I think, for the Broncos to be into. Again, I'm not a big Cody Barton fan. I just don't think he's very good in coverage, and I think you have more upside, in my opinion, with Jonas Griffith. So I actually have Jonas Griffith as your number 2 inside linebacker. The reason that is, again, he's missed 2 seasons, but in those 2 seasons he's played, he's improved each and every year. So in my opinion, I think 2 years being removed from that injury, I get that that's a major concern. That's why maybe you dip your toes into the free agency market just a little bit to go get another veteran to compete with him. But in my opinion, I just think that he's better in coverage. I think he's a better linebacker in general. 75% completion percentage in 2022. That's up from his completion percentage against him in 2021 when he had 80% completions against him. And then his passer rating, same thing. 109 passer rating in 2021, 87 passer rating in 2022. So he's improved each and every year. And clearly Denver sees something in him to bring him back. There's one of their first, if I remember right, in the offseason, that was one of their first deals they made, was bring back Jonas Griffith. I think they bought into this guy, in my opinion. I think he's got more upside than Cody Barton. I know Barton's played a lot. He's durable, but he's just not the greatest against the pass. He's pretty good against the run. He does do a good job, I think, at tackling. And we've heard some chatter that he's just getting beat a lot, I guess, in the past, and I think that's just very concerning for me. So for me, it's just Jonas Griffith, I think, is your second inside linebacker, but I would bring in competition to compete with him just because of that injury, and you don't just want to rely upon him and just Cody Barton. I think more competition can bring out the best with everybody.
Very good. Jonas Griffith penciled in number 2. We say pencil, especially at this point, because training camp is really going to play a lot of this all out. But we got to put something down on a piece of paper. Jody, who are you putting in at number 2? And is Jonas Griffith your guy at inside linebacker as well?
Yeah, he's my number 2 linebacker as well. Before he got injured a couple years ago, I mean, he was penciled in as a starter over Alex Singleton. So, I mean, they are banking. I mean, they've thought high of him for the last couple years, and they really didn't address the position. I mean, everything that Trevor said on Cody Barton. I mean, he's just an average linebacker. I think they're banking heavily on Jonas Griffith being healthy and getting back to what they seen 2 years ago. If that doesn't happen, then I think we're in serious trouble there, and they're going to have to address it, whether via trade or some free agents that are still out there.
Falls off that steep, according to Jody. I'll tell you what. Again, just adding a little bit because I do want to get to Phil's question before he has to dip out of here for some reason. If he has to dip out of here for some reason, like to be a little bit timely with this. So, Jonas Griffith is a freak athlete. Being up there, being close, seeing him on the field, he is tall. He is like a spider with his arms and his legs. He is lengthy. He's not afraid to come downhill. Put the lick on if he needs to. There's so many things I like about Jonas Griffith. On top of being able to meet and talk with him, Jonas Griffith is a heck of a guy, and I got to give a shout out to him for that. Just a really down to earth, cool dude. So appreciate Jonas Griffith on that level, but I've been a big fan of his, as you might imagine, a guy that is that cool for a while, and watched him and liked his play and liked what he brings, and I think he's absolutely should be penciled in as number 2. Really quick, go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say he is also their biggest inside linebacker, 6'4", 250. I mean, there's nobody's as big as he is, so I think that also you have to take that into account when talking about Jonas Griffith as his possible starter. Is he is one of the biggest linebackers that you have, is the biggest inside linebacker that you have, I should say. I'm on this roster, so I think that's something that he can account for in his direction, more or less. What the coaches can look at too.
It's why he made more sense, though, in the Alex Singleton role. And now Alex Singleton will be taking over that Josey Jewell role, possibly, at least with the green dot. It's just a little bit of a, moving the coconuts around on the table, I guess you could say, in order to make this work. I love Jonas Griffith being able to come downhill a little bit more like that. I like him in coverage, but he's probably better in coverage than Alex Singleton, in my opinion. Phil McLaughlin's coming in, though, and he says, "Good evening, Keith." Hey, check this out. The Judge and Trevor, man, calling Jody out only by his nickname on the show. I love that. He says, "I hope you all had a safe 4th and enjoyed Independence Day." And Josh, seems to me we can really count on the wide receivers and tight ends as long as we get that running game going. Guys, how much more will this wide receiver core that we're putting out this year, at least, we can't go back in history, can't go back in time, can't put a different quarterback out there, can't put out wide receivers that, were from last year. But this wide receiver, core that we have that we're going to be putting out there, how much are they going to benefit if this running game is on point, if this running game gets going? I'm going to go over to Jody on this one first. Jody, answer for Phil. We'll give him a little bit of love because he's given us a little bit of love with 100 stars when he comes in with this comment. What are your thoughts on that, man? The running game, it gets going, the wide receivers open up.
Oh, I think it's huge, especially with a rookie quarterback. Takes a lot of pressure off. Something that I all but pounded my head on the table for last year. I mean, everyone said Russ is not a 30, 40 time drop back passer, and that's what we did, whether that was on purpose or whatever the reason was. Now you have your quarterback in there and your guy run the football. With all the holes on this roster, you went out and drafted a elite running back, in my opinion. You have other running backs that are turning heads in training camp, and especially Jaleel McLaughlin. So use them. I mean, you don't keep running backs for a long time, so use them and use them up.
Spoken like a true GM. Get in there, use them up, get them back out the door, spit them out. But it's true, man. We got some heavy hitters in here for a running game. All of a sudden, it seems like now we have so many running backs we don't know what to do. We were just talking about that on Tuesday's episode, if I remember correctly. So, Trevor, what are your thoughts, man? Does this running game have the ability to get going enough that this wide receiving team, this wide receiver core of guys, all of a sudden light up? The tight ends open up. The wide receivers start racking up yards. None like what we've seen maybe in the past.
I mean, there's no guarantee. I think in the wide receiver room or tight end room that if you start running the football better, that they're going to just all of them are going to suddenly blossom. I think you're hoping there's a couple guys that do blossom. I think tight end, I'm still a little worried about it. Regardless of the hype of Lucas Kroll, I need to see him on the field and actually do it. I don't need to see them just in without pads and out there running around in shorts. I want to actually see it in a game first before I buy into the hype of him. Dulcich, we know what he can do, just can't stay healthy. The wide receiver room, I think there's some upside, and certainly the run game can help that because it needs to, right? I think it absolutely needs to answer Phil's question, just kind of bluntly, and it needs to because last season we can blame Russell Wilson all we want. This running game did not help him out much. I mean, that Cleveland game last season, that was probably one of the few games that actually helped him out in. And then that opened up the passing game, and now we've seen that offense look a lot better. Probably the best we've seen it all year in that Cleveland Browns game, if you remember. So I think it definitely helps. But I actually do think that it's going to have to help Bo Nix, right? You can't just go into this year, rely upon Bo Nix to suddenly be this next C.J. Stroud. He needs to have a running game with him and for him that will to gain some yardage and help him a little bit more. And I think Denver's going to rely on that running game pretty heavy this year with the rookie quarterback in place, and they need to be effective doing it. If you're not effective doing it, might be a long ride for Bo Nix going into this year, and definitely might be seeing some struggles if that's not the case.
I saw a guy struggle at a quarterback once he was put in there, but a strong running game sure helped him out, and an amazing defense on the back side. His name is Tim Tebow. And, man, I tell you what, if it wasn't for that amazing running game that he had at that time, Tim Tebow wouldn't have survived nearly as well as he did. My point is there's something to be said about grinding it out, pounding it out. We're one of the few teams that actually employ a fullback on their team. We're one of the few teams that went out there and free agency in the last couple of years and got one of the top guards, one of the top tackles when it comes to running the ball, not pass protecting. We all saw what Mike McGlinchey can do in pass protecting. He's not known for that. Ben Powers isn't known for pass protecting. Now we start putting the guys like Estime and Watson and Javonte and Pirine and McLaughlin. I mean, all back there, and you're having to make some choices of who's going to be out there on the 53. I think there could be a lot of running that could be opening, that could be utilized. It could be a very run heavy. And I don't know if they necessarily light it up, but kind of like in the Tim Tebow days, guys, there was always big plays. There were always a big play or two that all of a sudden it opened up, and some guy would have 2 catches for 96 yards. You know what I mean? Something like that. Good stat line when it looked at the end because he almost had a 100-yard game. That's the opportunity that it opens up, and I like that idea and that mindset, Phil.
And I was going to say,
go ahead.
I was going to say really quick. So even the best quarterbacks in the NFL need a running game. Look at Patrick Mahomes. He has Pacheco. I mean, right? I mean, and he has a defense behind him, and he's still winning Super Bowls and stuff like that. So even the best quarterbacks in the NFL, they are better off when they have a good running game, a great running game, actually, to help them, right? Help him kind of carry the load. It can't just be a quarterback by himself, and that's the thing the Broncos cannot do. It's put Bo Nix in a difficult situation. I'm not sticking up for Russell Wilson, but it wasn't just his fault that they couldn't move the football last year. The running game was not very good. They were 18th in yards last year. I mean, this is not acceptable, not good enough for an offensive mind. Sean Payton, you're paying him to be that offensive mind and bring that to this team. They got to be better for Bo Nix going forward, and just for this offense in general, but including Bo Nix and helping him get where he needs to get to.
Do you think that they drafted Estime as a sign of that they're going to commit to this running game more, or that they're not confident that Javonte is 100% healthy or can get back to old Javonte.
If you're asking me, man, A, B, and C, I don't think I think there is some worry about Javonte after last year. You can't go in feeling like, yeah, all right, no, it's all good. He's just going to turn it around. I think they absolutely want to get this running game going, and I think they expected more from it last year, and because Javonte couldn't get it going, that hurt them a lot, and they needed answers. They want more running, and finally, Estime is, as you said, a amazing talent that was rated higher on the draft board by Sean Payton than where they got him. So you get the value aspect of it as well. I mean, it's kind of all slapping you right in the face at that point. I think it just couldn't get passed up.
Yeah. Well, and also remember, Sean Payton likes to carry multiple running backs and likes to use all of them. So I think that's also something where he didn't feel like he had enough already in the bag. So you go and get a guy like Audric Estime. Again, the value's there because the Broncos are going to value him ahead of other teams. And so when he's there, they're going to take him. But it's also, again, Sean Payton just likes the flexibility to be able to use multiple contributing running backs in his offense. So I think that's also part of it as well.
Yeah. I'll get to Patrick Wiltsey really quick, and then I'm going to jump back to Phil, who's dropping stars again. But I appreciate everyone jumping in the comments, and I appreciate all the likers, supporters, subscribers that are out there every Tuesday, every Friday, subscribing to the show, getting in here, mixing it up, dropping comments, having great questions. Patrick was talking a little bit about his prediction. He says 8-1 because I'm only half wrong either way. Yep, drawn right down the middle of the line. I like it. VJ scares me, he says. I really don't understand what the thought process he has employed as a coach. Yeah, I think VJ scares a lot of people. I want to read. I need to go back. I've saved a recent article about him and his change in his process that I need to read up on, and it'll be interesting to see once I go down there in training camp, which I'm still planning on doing as well. But I understand the nervousness, but man, I just think I have this feeling it's just going to start coming together. We saw parts and pieces of it, man. Before we get to our third inside linebacker, and then I got to get to Phil McLaughlin's question. All right, he says, so we all agree we need a running game. So who starts and how many running backs do we keep? So this was the big question. I think even last week we were talking about this. Last year it was a 3 on the 53 that they kept. Of course, fullback was not included in that number, so we also kept a fullback on top of it. That's just a general outline. Certainly doesn't have to be that way. And with kickoff rules, a lot of people are trying to guesstimate exactly what this looks like. You know what? I'm going to start off with the judge. What are you thinking, Judge? Who starts? Who gets the game one starting nod, RB1, and how many running backs do we keep on this roster?
I think we keep 3. And I think if he comes in and he's healthy right away, at the start of training camp, I think Audric Estime is your starter. If not, I think Jaleel McLaughlin. I've said for a while, I think there are teams out there, and I think Denver tries to trade Javonte Williams. I said Blake Watson as my third, but I can go either way. I can see him trying to sneak to the practice squad, and you still keep a veteran in Pirine, but because that would be a pretty young running back group if you went Jaleel, Blake, and Audric. You have all 3 running backs that have little to no experience. So I think you almost got to keep Samaje. But I think 3, and I think if Audric Estime is 100% healthy, he's your starter. And I just base this off of what I seen at Notre Dame. I watched a lot of their games, and this dude is the total package to me.
Yeah, even me going back and watching a little bit of tape on him, I was amazed the hands that this guy has down the field for a guy of his size. I think it'll be interesting to see exactly what he's able to put together. hopefully from day one at training camp as he comes back from that little knee scope that he had done. Trevor, answer Phil's question for him, man. Who's that day one RB1 and how many guys are on that 53?
Yeah, for me, it's Jaleel McLaughlin. I think he's your running back one, especially, again, if he's improved in, pass protection. I think that's one of his biggest weaknesses. But you're talking about a guy that's got elite speed. And out of all these running backs, again, I think McLaughlin has the most speed of all of them for me. I think SMA, we'll see what the injury looks like. I'm still a little worried about it. I wonder if Denver doesn't kind of hold him back a little bit and don't try to rush him when they already have P. Ryan and they have other guys on the roster already that can take his place. I think there will be 3 running backs that make this roster. I would say McLaughlin, P. Ryan. I think there's a great chance, especially with Bo Nix dumping the ball off. P. Ryan is one of the better running backs on this roster that can catch the ball and do something with it. And like Jody said, he's a veteran in this running back room, which if you didn't have P. Ryan, it'd be a very young running back room. Blake Watson, I think there's a chance they sneak him through the practice squad unless he just really starts showing out in training camp. So, Javonte, I think they do to keep Javonte around because I don't think they're going to get the value that they would want out of Javonte. I think they're going to try to see what they can get out of him. I think SMA, again, hold him back a little bit. Maybe they put him on injury reserve for a little while, but I think that there'll be 3 running backs, McLaughlin, P. Ryan, Javonte, just based upon the value for Javonte and his contract. He's still on his rookie contract, so they're not saving anything by releasing him.
I agree. And so that's why we're all going to have different answers. I'm going to have Javonte as my starter. I know I'm the outlier. I'm hoping that it's all about, just being out there in shorts. And once training camp happens, things are turned around. I think that Jaleel McLaughlin is pushing hard, man. He's that guy that everyone talks about. He's the first one in the building. He's had breakfast before, while and a workout in before the guys are even walking in the door. He's pushing hard, and I think he'll have a great opportunity for some touches. But I just have this feeling that Javonte A is going to turn on, and B, I think that's he's in their plans. So I'm going to say Javonte's their starter. And I wouldn't be surprised if they kept 4, but I'll stick with 3. I'm going to stick with 3. But don't rule out that 4th option. Again, I think just because, again, if we're moving around running backs, Javonte Williams makes it. Marvin Mims needs to be that wide receiver. All of a sudden, Jaleel McLaughlin, it would be nice to be back there on special teams. It just, I could see a way that 4 gets onto this roster. So
I will say, Keith, I think one thing Javonte has going for him is he's a former second-round draft pick. Typically, teams don't like giving up on those type of high-value players relatively quickly. So that's why I think Javonte's back on this roster because of where high they picked him. Remember, they traded up for him. George Payton's still here in Denver. So I know that some say, well, you don't have too much of a voice. Well, I think he'd have some sort of a voice. And I think Sean Payton starting him last year shows that he also sees something in Javonte, as well as, again, he started most games last year, so he played. So, and he took a lot of snaps, even when he was hurt. So, I think Javonte will stick on this roster just based upon where he was drafted at as well. I think that's on his side for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. He wrote when Javonte was playing horrible, he still never made the switch to P. Ryan.
Yeah,
who had a much better average, and he was averaging over 4 a carry. So there's something there that they like in Javonte. I just go back to Audric. You had holes on this roster, and you went running back when you were already 3 deep. Something there is, and I don't know. It's either Javonte or P. Ryan, one of the 2.
I like it. Judge making his ruling, man. I hope the love comes down for Javonte. I hope he's on this roster. I just go back to those angry run days and what he was capable of. I know that Estime can certainly bring that same mentality as well, but it sure would be nice to see Javonte back to that level that we all loved. Speaking of love, guys, you know what else I love? Morgan Trinkets. Morgan Trinkets is your headquarters for Southwest jewelry, pottery, and estate gold at wholesale prices. They were once a nationwide Y company, and they've been hanging around for 33 years doing this. I mean, I'm telling you what, they know what they're doing now. Now they concentrate on just northern Colorado, southern Wyoming, and on Facebook. And that's exactly where you can find Morgan Trinkets, over there on Facebook. I'm telling you guys, they have an amazing inventory of items. And if you don't see what you're looking for, just message them. All your transactions over there on Facebook are absolutely freely shipped as long as you spend $50, and they accept PayPal over there on Facebook. Now, if you hit one of their amazing shows that they're at all summer long, and you can find it out over on Morgan Trinkets, I'll drop the link here in a second. Then you can go all major credit cards accepted. Morgan Trinkets, I'm telling you guys, what wonderful stuff. Pearl keeps sending me these images of her shows from the past when she's set up and she's taking pictures of all her shows, all the amazing jewelry that she has out there. I mean, what a beautiful setup that she has, and beautiful pieces that she has. You won't be disappointed. We've had friends, we've had family, we've had, you name it, purchase from Pearl. Everyone's been satisfied. Check out Morgan Trinkets and Pearl as soon as you possibly can. Morgan Trinkets, your headquarters for Southwest Jewelry, Pottery, and Estate Gold. And by the way, if you're looking for silver, got it too, starting at $10, going all the way up to $2,000. It's all sterling silver as well. Check out Morgan Trinkets. I'll drop the link. And we never finished up linebackers, so I'm going to go over to Trevor, and I got a question from Pearl that I'm going to start with. Is your number 3 Cody Barton? And if not, she thinks he doesn't even make the final 53. So, Trevor, I'll let you go twofold. Your final number 3 inside linebacker that you have that we're going to talk about this evening, and does Cody Barton make the roster, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of in there with Pearl. I'm very skeptical of Cody Barton. I actually think, for what the Broncos should do and for what they will do, again, we'll see. For me, I don't have him making this roster, especially if you have a guy that's an upgrade out in free agency. And a guy that keeps, in my mind, that has connections back to the Broncos is Quan Alexander. I think that he's the guy that played for Sean Payton in 2021. In his most played games throughout his career, in 2022, in 12 games with the Jets, he had a 70% completion percentage, passing rating allowed of 89.5, and total tackles of 4. So again, it's no one out there is going to be a star and is going to pop off the board and catch your eye because we're this late in the free agency. So maybe this is something Denver waits when cuts start happening. But Quan Alexander has connections back to Sean Payton when Sean Payton was with New Orleans back in 2021. So I think that Quan Alexander would be a guy that he's interesting. I think he's an upgrade over Cody Barton in a lot of ways. So he'd be a guy that I would keep an eye on. Shaquille Leonard, he's a guy that you could keep an eye on as well. A couple years ago was a Pro Bowler, but he's kind of fallen off a little bit. So no one out there is really like the perfect fit for this team, in my opinion. But I think there's certainly upgrades out there that the Broncos can go out there and possibly get over Cody Barton. They can best help Alex Singleton be the best inside linebacker he possibly can be. So I agree with Pearl, though. Cody Barton, I think he's kind of on that roster bubble for me as far as making this roster as an inside linebacker.
Wow, there you go, man. Who was your number 3, though? I missed it. I'm sorry. I was trying to check comments.
Quan Alexander.
Oh, yeah. You're going the free agent. I saw it. Yeah. I apologize. We talked about that right before we jumped on the show. So interesting choice, man. Going the free agent route for the number 3. I'll be honest, man. I don't know if I'll go that direction, but we'll find out which way the judge goes, man. What do you think? Who's coming in number 3 for you on this inside linebacker, and could it be outside the group or the core that we already have inside the building? Oh, and ask the Cody Barton question too, buddy.
I'll give 2 answers, I guess. One, if you just stick to what's on this roster, I think Cody Barton. I'm not a Justin Sternard fan. He's really showing nothing. And as thin as this roster is, he is probably the number 3 linebacker. He was one of the first signings in free agency that they went and got. If it is outside, if they do go outside the market, I agree. Quan Alexander, Shaquille Leonard, someone like that. But if you just pick what's on this roster, I think Cody Barton. just because what they paid him, and he was one of the first signings that they went and got, really.
Yeah.
In free agency.
Yeah.
I don't really love it, but it is what it is.
All the love for Cody Barton so early, guys. Poor guy hasn't even played it down for us. And that's one thing I will say. Sometimes when guys are brought in, there's just a different role that they're taking on. It's a little bit different defense. It's a different scheme. You know what I mean? And guys can end up looking different than what we've seen in the past. It's something that I'm hoping that we see from a couple of different guys that we've maybe brought onto this roster so far this year. But I can't really make an argument for not being Cody Barton. I'm kind of like you guys. I mean, I or like Jody. I feel the same way. I feel like we went out, we got him, we kind of targeted him. I feel like he's a good, comparative, I guess you could say, to maybe a Jonas Griffith. Not in size, not in length, all of that, but kind of the way he goes about and the way he plays. So I can kind of see that being kind of the bet that, if Jonas can't, maybe Cody can, in my opinion. But I think the door is very open. You go out there and you sign a guy like Andre Smith already. You have Lavelle Bailey already getting talked about by Sean Payton. I don't think anything is locked up for that 3 spot, and it could be off this roster, it could be on this roster, it could be Cody Barton, it could be someone completely different. I'm not really sure. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not coming in here and I'm not stamping my or pounding my fist on the table saying it's got to be Cody Barton. Go ahead, Jody.
I had 2 things. How much do you think they were banking on Drew Sanders? Do you think that was the option, or do you think he was going to play outside?
No, I think that was smokescreen for some reason. I think Drew Sanders had to be inside, and I think they were banking on him a lot. Trevor, what are your thoughts on that, man? I just got done talking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm back and forth on that. I don't think there's any guarantee he would have been an inside linebacker. That's the thing for me. That's where they should be putting him at. I mean, again, another edge rusher to this edge rushing room is just like, well, okay, he might be blocked by Jonathan Cooper, Nick Benito, a lot of these other guys that need to play. So it's like, unless they were going to move off of a Jonathan Cooper or another edge rusher in that room, and you just drafted Jonah Ellis. So it's just like, well, you're really, I mean, that edge rushing room is really, if you put Drew Sanders in it, he's kind of getting blocked by a bunch of those edge rushers. So unless you were going to move off of like Jonathan Cooper or something, made no sense. I think that there's a plan there, and there should be a plan to play him inside linebacker now, based off what Jonah Ellis draft pick was when they picked him. He's clearly an edge rusher. So if you're trying to get those guys playing time, it makes the most sense, in my opinion, for Drew Sanders to be an inside linebacker rather than edge rusher.
Maybe they were going to move Baron Browning to inside linebacker.
Back to inside linebacker?
Yeah. Back to inside linebacker. That's what I meant.
And then that was going to be my other question. Why do you think it was not addressed? I mean, we knew from the very beginning when we lost Jewell that it was a major hole. And I don't think we really addressed it. We didn't try to draft anyone. We didn't draft anyone in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really address it in free agency.
I can tell you why. $85 million cap hit. Walked out the door and got signed for a steal up in Pittsburgh. We'll see what Russell Wilson can do, but the checkbook was not open this offseason. Even George Payton from the get, it's like, hey, don't expect the Broncos country. Ain't gonna happen this year. Can't happen every year.
I mean, would you rather have a decent middle linebacker and save the money that you spent like on Josh Reynolds, or there was just some weird signings. Like, we're already deep at wide receiver, and then you went and signed a wide receiver for decent money, and I don't know, just some. I mean, I don't hate the Josh Reynolds signings. Some of it doesn't make sense to me. Or like the Audric Estime pick, you had linebackers right there. Like Trotter was right there, Trotter Jr., and you could have taken him, and we passed on him.
Peyton Wilson.
Peyton Wilson. There's just some weird things that I don't understand, that I'm not fully understanding.
Yeah. I agree. That's for me. I agree with the whole cap situation. Like they couldn't have went out and signed like a Patrick Queen or anything in free agency, but why didn't they draft an inside linebacker with some upside to him? You pass on Peyton Wilson for Jonah Ellis, so that Jonah Ellis pick better hit, because that could be something like it could define a draft class. Peyton Wilson hits. I know he's got injuries, but I'm very high on that guy. He was an early second round, had an early second round grade on him. I mean that's his. I mean I just think the Steelers got a steal there, and I question that. Like, if you're going to double down on edge rusher, Jonah Ellis may not play this year when a guy like Peyton Wilson, if he's healthy, could have started for you. So it's like, you don't agree with it, but we'll see. We'll see what they do.
Unless you expect to see a lot of nickel and dime with only one linebacker on the field, would be my only other thing, I guess.
But even Singleton's not the greatest in coverage, like that's the problem too.
That's why we invested in that defensive line, and see, now it's all coming around full circle. If we got a good defensive line, we don't have to worry about that middle linebacker as much. We can only have one. Who knows, man? We switch over to a 4-3 instead of a 3-4. Hey, there. Go ahead, Trevor.
No, go. I was going to say go ahead, because I've been talking quite a bit. So go ahead.
No. I was going to move on to our final topic, but if you got something else you want to add, go ahead.
No, I was going to say. Do you think that? I mean, there are 3 or 4 right now, but do you think that this team is more set up to play a 4-3? Because a 3-4, that 3-4, that you'd be adding a bigger body, to play that nose tackle, defensive tackle position. DJ Jones and Malcolm Roach are really not too big. I mean, that big of a body to play a 3-4, in 3-4 scheme. So in my opinion, they're more set up to play a 4-3 than anything. I just wondering if you guys agreed upon that as well, just what the roster looks like right now.
I would love to see a 4-3 out of this roster. I think that's exactly how they're set up. And don't get me wrong, with this day and age, it's not like you don't see 4 guys down on a 3-4 front as it is, but they would rock in a 4-3 in my opinion.
Yeah.
Jody?
The only reason I disagree with that is only because of the amount of edge rushers they have. I mean, you have Benito, you have Cooper, you have Jonah Ellis. Those are true 3-4 rush linebackers. That, in my opinion, Baron Browning, you could probably switch back inside, but
yeah,
but I think that's the main reason is the amount of edge rushers you have.
Yeah,
you don't have defensive ends on this roster, really.
Yeah, and to get some of those guys to be stand-up outside linebackers, you know what I mean, that's going to come off the edge or something like that, might be a little much, you know what I mean?
If you still had Randy Gregory or somebody like that, then yeah, maybe, but you don't have a tweener type guy. Benito's way too small to be playing on the end.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
in my opinion.
Yep, that's fair too. Probably not just as big on the interior as I'd like, as kind of what Trevor is saying, kind of alluding to as well. Well, guys, last thing, man, and I think this was a good one. A lot of times during this downtime, during this 5 weeks or so, if not sooner, you get your guys kind of taken care of. You get them on the books. You know that their contracts are coming up. You got to get them locked down, locked in. And a lot of people in Broncos country, and I think a lot of people outside of Broncos country, think there's 2 big contracts that are kind of looming for the Broncos and would like to see them maybe get done sooner than later. So Trevor put it up on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being I'm not concerned whatsoever, 5 being I'm ringing the red alarm bell. How concerned are you? And I'll start off with Jody on this one. The PS2 hasn't got his long-term deal.
I'm not that concerned.
1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
1.
Okay.
And I just base that off. Everyone knows what Denver's kind of situation is right now with the Russ thing. He knows that, and I think he knows that he's going to get taken care of.
Very good. All in good time. No panic here. Trevor, man, are you sounding the bell at all on a PS2 not being signed? No whispers of contracts being taken care of in the background as of yet?
I'm probably about a 2.5 as far as concerned. For me, again, not as concerned about Surtain as I am Meinerz, kind of, looking at, a little bit deeper of everything, just because Surtain, you have that 5th-year option available. He won't be a free agent until 2026 because he's a first-round draft pick. Yeah, some going to say, well, him and Meinerz are in the same draft class. Well, Surtain's a first-round draft pick, so you have that extra 5th-year option that you have. The Broncos will have, so they can accept that, keep him around. Meinerz don't have that, so this is Meinerz contract year this year. So for me, for Surtain's probably 2.5, just because back and forth. I mean, I just think that, again, he's going to want big money. If the Broncos, how Surtain has played up at this point, I'm not sure he's top of the market value as far as like money wise, what he's valued right now. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think if you're the Broncos, you would like to get it done now, I think, and try to get ahead of it rather than wait. Because if you wait and he just pops off, he's going to want more money and stuff like that. So for me, with Surtain, I'm not as concerned, but it's getting there as far as like, well, you don't want to pay this guy top dollar if he goes out and has another breakout season, in my opinion. So, that's just kind of where my concern is right now.
Very good. Pearl's kind of coming in about the same, coming in with a 2, and Michael Ronquillo's coming in. The Ronk's in the house, man. Appreciate you jumping in here, coming in, saying good evening, Keith, Trevor, and Jody, clapping it up. Giving us the big orange and blue stars, orange and blue hearts, man. I got lots of different things on my mind. Stars like Patrick Surtain. And the one thing that does concern me, if you guys are going to go 1 and then go 2, I'll go 3. The one thing that really kind of concerns me is he is an elite athlete. His dad was an elite athlete. And he's not currently on an elite team. And he'd probably like to play on an elite team. And he's played next to around a Justin Simmons. And he's seen all the heartache that Courtland Sutton has went through. And, I think there's a little bit of concern, man, because this guy knows what's possible. His dad knows what's possible. His dad, if he was in his ear at all last year, was on Twitter basically saying PS2 needs to be finding a new home. So I think there's a level of concern. I don't think it's a 1 or a 2, but I'd sure like to get it locked up. I don't want to get into franchise tag ugliness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not playing on the franchise tag type of situation. Like to get this done, like to get it locked up, and like to have a little bit of peace of mind more than anything when it comes to PS2. But I'll rock it right back to you, Trevor. You brought it up. The one that concerns you a little bit more is Quinn Meinerz. Talk about Quinn Meinerz and him not getting locked down as of right now, and give me your 1 to 5 rating on that one.
Yeah, so before we move off PS2 really quick, I like to give up.
Absolutely, man.
Average value per year. Who has the most in the NFL as far as corner wise? Jair Alexander with the Green Bay Packers is $21 million, and Denzel Ward with the Cleveland Browns is $20 million. So I can just kind of give you an estimate of the contract, what it'd be with PS2. Alexander signed a 4-year, $84 million contract extension, $30 million guaranteed. Denzel Ward signed a 5-year, $100 million contract extension, and $71 million guaranteed in both. And then both those deals were done in 2022, of course. So just kind of give you a rough estimate of where the market would possibly be for PS2. That's why I say, I think the Broncos run the risk of this continues on into this season. You run the risk of that value just raising so much more when right now you could pay him and get him at a decent value. So remains to be seen. I just think that, again, that's just quite a bit to pay a cornerback, but sooner rather than later would be better for the Broncos. And as far as Quinn Meinerz goes, this is his final year of his contract. They're making $3.5 million this year. I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned because this is the Broncos' best player on the offensive side of the ball, in my opinion. And I don't think he gets talked about enough and gets enough credit for being that guy. He's one of the best guards in the league, if not the best. So, very concerning for me. Chris Lindstrom makes $20.5 million annually, just kind of giving you a perspective of other guards around the league, what they're making. Landon Dickerson from the Philadelphia Eagles makes 4 years, has a contract of 4 years, $84 million, $21 million annually, $29 million fully guaranteed. So just kind of the perspective of Quinn Meinerz of where the money is going to be for the Broncos. Again, we talked about this cap space with what they have. They're going to have to start using that. Quinn Meinerz going into this final year of his contract, I think both sides would like to get this sorted out And, again, with Surtain, you have that fifth-year option. With Meinerz, you're not. So for me, on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm like a 4.5 when it comes to Meinerz, 4.5 with Quinn Meinerz concern-wise, because, again, I just don't think you can let this linger throughout the season. A, it's a distraction for him and for the Broncos, and B, lock him up. This is one of your best star players on your offense side of the ball, so I just think you should just get it done now and avoid any conflict. Franchise tag, like you said, Keith, with Surtain, but in this case, to be with Meinerz. I just think that getting him done sooner rather than later, but very much so this time around with Meinerz, would be very, very important.
Very good, man. Ringing the bell pretty hard on that one, coming in with about 4.5, getting Quinn Meinerz done. Judge, man, what are your thoughts, man? Quinn Meinerz, man, he's been the anchor on that line around quite a mess at times, and plays well beyond his pay scale right now. Due some money. How concerned are you that he's not got a deal done, or how concerned are you that he's going to be getting a deal done in the near future?
I'm kind of on the fence but for some different reasons. I think one, they want to see how Ben Powers does this year. If Ben Powers underperforms like he did this year, they will move on from Powers, and that frees up more money. And then I think the wild card is Garrett Bowles. Garrett Bowles is on his last year of the deal, and with a rookie quarterback, do you want to go into next year looking for another left tackle? I think those are hard decisions that Denver's trying to make. Are you going to pay? I mean, you're already paying big money to two guys on this roster, two guys, and you got two more coming due. What? I think if Denver had their way now, I think they would like Powers to so they can move on from him. That frees some money up. And then I don't know how. I know a lot of people are not the hugest Garrett Bowles fans and whatever, but in my opinion, Garrett Bowles is still a top 10 to 12 left tackle, and that's hard to replace. And I think that's one of the things holding Quinn Meinerz up is what is easier to replace, a right guard or a left tackle?
Yeah.
I think that's holding up a lot of things, especially with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah. I'm kind of sorry. I'll probably be right there with Trevor in that 4 range. Pearl's coming in with her 5. I'm kind of where on Jody's mindset, and that's what was my mindset. Heck, we just got done playing McGlinchey. We just got done paying Ben Powers. We don't know what's going on over there at left tackle with Garrett Bowles, and for some reason, if he plays well and we keep him around, how much money do you invest in the offensive line? I think before we even started the show and before this question even came up, I started thinking about this. I think we got, for us nostalgic Bronco fans, we had such an amazing offensive line in front of Terrell Davis, right? And that's where the expectations kind of land. And we would like to see that replicated, but that would cost just a ton of money. And I don't know if we can get it done. So that's why I'm kind of sounding that alarm bell on Quinn Meinerz. I think he liked to be here. I think he wants to be a Bronco. I think that he would work just about any way that he possibly could, but I don't think he's going to go ahead and I don't think that he's going to, take a huge hometown discount in order to stay here at the same time. So yeah, it's a little alarming. I was going through my thought process. I think if you franchise tag an offensive lineman, though, it's the average of all positions. So tackles get wrapped into that equation. So it's not like, oh, I'm getting off cheap with an offensive guard. That's probably why you don't see that happen a whole lot. So that I was just trying to think of thought processes of how we could possibly keep Quinn Meinerz around just a little bit longer. So it is concerned.
I have a question. If both Meinerz and
I lost your audio there, buddy.
If Bowles and Meinerz both have above average years or great seasons, who are you keeping? I mean, if you could only pay one.
Bowles or Meinerz?
I know the age comes into it a little bit. I just with a rookie quarterback, you are going to have a hard time, in my opinion, replacing Garrett Bowles. I mean, for whatever people think about him, the grass probably is not going to be greener. And we haven't drafted left tackle. We have not invested there. We have done nothing since Bowles.
So rapid fire. Who are you doing, Jody? I'll just A or B. Bowles or Meinerz?
I think if they both play off of what I asked, I think Garrett Bowles, just because left tackle is so much more important, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's the second most important position in football.
Trevor.
Quinn Meinerz, 100%. I think he's young, like Jody said. I think age does play a factor into this. When does that decline start happening with Garrett Bowles? And I think, in my opinion, he's your best offensive player on this roster right now. And that's saying something. He's a guard. Guards usually aren't that, but I think Quinn Meinerz is just that special. This is a Pro Bowl guard you have. I think arguably he's your best offensive lineman that you have. And if you talk about running the football, like we say we do, and how much the Broncos need to improve there, I think if you take Quinn Meinerz off this offensive line, because Ben Powers, in my opinion, just hasn't been great, and same with Michael McGlinchey, I think that you're going to see a big drop-off in this team running the football effectively and efficiently. And I think that you're taking that away from Bo Nix. I just don't like it. From me, I think they got to find a way to pay Quinn Meinerz. But again, I agree with Jody also on Garrett Bowles. If Garrett Bowles is off this roster, you're having to replace that. He's probably your second best offensive lineman right now that Cushenberry left. And he's a left tackle, hard to replace, but I think it's a lot harder to replace a guy like Quinn Meinerz. And I think there's more upside still with Quinn Meinerz than there is with Garrett Bowles.
You're making me cry a tear on this one, but I think I would keep Bowles for all the reasons that Jody just mentioned, man. Left tackles are so tough to come by. Left tackles are irreplaceable. Garrett Bowles, I don't think, gets enough credit for what he does out there. You need to protect that quarterback, but I would cry seeing Quinn Meinerz walk out the door for all the reasons you just said, Trevor.
Yeah.
Great talent, super young, lots of upside. But if we're choosing A and B, and I'm thinking, what's the best way to keep this team together, relevant, and winning around this rookie quarterback, I would hope that I could replace that interior offensive lineman easier than I can just go out there and try to find a great left tackle that's going to protect his blind side. I know, Trevor.
I don't
see
know.
grit in there. That's why I'm crying. But I got to get to these comments, guys, because we're already at the hour mark. We got new names in here that I got to jump in and say hello to. Like Rick Diaz saying, "Good evening, gentlemen. I just plugged into your show." Well, thank you, Rick. Appreciate you jumping in here, being part of the show. I see some more comments, and we'll get to them. He said, Phil McLaughlin comes in and says, "Don't you guys feel the longer that we all wait for, the more PS2 will ask for? Is Bowles going to get a contract?" I think we got to a little bit about that right now. He said, if he plays great, it's going to be expensive for us. Yeah, I agree. It's going to be expensive. It's not going to be inexpensive for all the love that Quinn Meinerz has been getting as of lately either to try to sign him. Rick says if he plays real good this season, the Denver Broncos, he's going to have a good season. That is only be aggressive and consistent week after week. That's going to be a challenge for him. So just trying to be consistent week after week, I think, is a challenge for anybody. I like this from Rick, though. He says, and I think this goes for a lot of things, man. I think opinions are set on players because of just last year's performance. They're a rookie, whatever it happens to be. Again, I really think the tight end position could really open up this year with Bo Nix at quarterbacks. But he says you never know. Their rookies might be able to play better than what we see in the preseason before regular season starts. If we just don't ever know, anything could happen. So yeah, I like it. I like it, buddy. Trevor, you were going to say something, it looked like?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, why can't they pay, if they really want Garrett Bowles back, I mean, to me, you got to keep Quinn Meinerz. You can't let him just walk. But again, with Garrett Bowles, why can't you pay both? I don't think Garrett Bowles is going to ask for top of the dollar left tackle money, in my opinion. I mean, again, Jody says he's a top 15 tackle in the NFL. I don't think he's going to ask to be the number one highest paid left tackle. I mean, in the NFL, and where the contracts are set up, you can get by with paying both if you really want to. The question is with the Denver Broncos, I think more or less anything is, do they want to pay Garrett Bowles this long? They've waited to not pay Garrett Bowles. I just wonder if they fear that there's going to be a decline and you're paying the left tackle big money if you do pay that. But I think they can actually pay both if they really, this contract's constructed right. They can pay both. Because again, remember, when you invest, ideally you want to invest into the trenches. You want to invest on your offensive and defensive line. So I don't think they would have a problem investing into their offensive line. I just think that the matters of who do they want to pay and the age and when they project will be the drop off, in my opinion.
The only reason that I said that was because we wanted to do that an A/B choice, so it would be a quick little question of if you had to pay one, you had to let one go. I think there's always a possibility. You can almost keep just about anybody on your team. It's not like we had to let Justin Simmons go or anything else like that. There's always a way that you can work money around. You could be the New Orleans Saints and have already $60 million on their cap hit for 2030. I have no. You can move money around. You can move money around and make it work. So I agree there, but I just wanted to make it a quick one as we were trying to wrap up. Go ahead, buddy.
I think that unless he has an all-pro season, I think they're going to move on from Ben Powers, and that frees up money. He didn't play up to that deal at all. I mean, you can say the same thing about Mike McGlinchey, but the carousel that they've had a right tackle, I mean, he's been the most consistent since Ryan Harris. So yeah. I don't think you can really afford to move on from him, but I think you definitely can move on from Ben Powers and divvy that money up between Bowles and Meinerz.
Yep. I could see that. I'm really hoping that the difference in us running the ball and the scheme might have a different look to our offensive line. Trevor, you were wanting to add one last thing before we get on out of here?
No, I was going to say, didn't they add void years to McGlinchey and Powers' contracts? So they're essentially pushing money down the line. So I think it's going to be actually harder for them to move off of Ben Powers, Mike McGlinchey, to free up money for this season. So I think that's I think it's going to be a little bit harder for them to move on from these guys as before. I think with their money and how it was structured, they can move off of them earlier. So I think it's the opposite. I just don't think they want to pay Garrett Bowles right now. I think that they're going to kind of prediction read between the lines. I think going forward, I think they might want to move off Garrett Bowles, in my opinion. And then maybe they target a left tackle in the draft, or they have some other guy in mind. They want to maybe target free agency that's an upgrade over Garrett Bowles.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Everyone's predicting all this great cap space after this year, but there's going to be big contracts that we just end up talking about. You got PS2 who's going to be right at the top. You know what I mean? You have Meinerz that is certainly got to demand top guard money. You have Garrett Bowles who's been out there and now is I believe he's a Pro Bowler at one point out there at left tackle and now a veteran of how many years? He's has value out there on the open market. It's going to be tougher and tougher, and this cap space that we are projected to have is going to get eaten up really, really quick. So,
they were saying on 850 earlier this week that Garrett Bowles he's played on the line the longest of any offensive lineman ever. I mean, he's been there the longest now.
Wow. That is amazing. That is amazing. I have to give him a high five if I see him down there at training camp. That being said, guys, man, I appreciate everyone hanging out, having a fantastic chat, coming in here on a Friday night, hanging with us on a Friday night, man. Love that, man. Friday nights are always fun. They're always popping. We have people like Rick and Michael and Phil McLaughlin, and we had Pearl in there, and we had Ernie Mays was in there early, Patrick Wiltsey all talking it up as well, man. We have lots of great friends and family members out there in the posse. We have fantastic sponsors like Morgan Trinkets. Remember, all your Southwest jewelry, pottery, and estate gold wholesale prices. Morgan Trinkets is your place to go. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Rocky Mountain Sports Network, Denver Bronco Roundup, Facebook, YouTube. Go find us. We appreciate all the love and support you've given us as we've grown and grown and grown, and can't wait to give you guys some inside scoop when it comes to training camp as well. That's going to be exciting as well. Again, every Tuesday, every Friday, 7:00. Don't forget to tune in. Trevor, why don't you say some goodbyes? I kind of got my long-winded answers in. We'll let Jody say goodbye as well, and we'll get on out of here.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. You guys are, again, you're awesome. This is what we do it. Great fans, best fans that we, out there, in my opinion. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you, Phil, once again for sending stars. That's awesome to see that. Just want to thank everybody for being here and continuing to grow our posse as we continue to grow as well. So it's fun to have everyone start to grow with us and be here with us. Just thank you guys for everything. Happy 4th of July to everybody as well. Later 4th of July, I should say. But again, just thank you to everybody, and we'll see you guys on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Just thank you guys for the support, and we appreciate you. Go Broncos.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate Trevor even more so. I appreciate you guys more than Trevor. Sorry, Trevor. But Jody, I appreciate you about the same as the posse. Why don't you go ahead and come in here and say goodbye to everybody?
Another great show, great debate. Going to be interesting to see who gets paid, who doesn't. This Russ deal is still hurting this team, and I mean that's the whole show in itself. But I think Denver has a plan, and if it were me, you got to pay. I think all 3 guys get paid: Bowles, Meinerz, and PS2. What that means for Sutton, I don't know, but only time will tell. And we're 60 days away from actual football games again, so we can't wait.
Dang, isn't that crazy? Yeah, we're like 67, 66, something like that. It's got to be somewhere in that range. It's amazing. It's right around the corner, man. Can't wait. Can't wait. We all love it. The anticipation's building. Thank you, Michael, coming in here and saying great show. Thank you, Pearl, coming in here and saying great show. Love you all. And a big thank you, big hearts. Appreciate you all so very, very much. It's been a great one, man. Appreciate you guys cutting it up. Appreciate everyone that goes over to the Rocky Mountain Sports Network website too, guys. Been dropping some articles on the Broncos as of lately. Been getting pretty good response. So thank you very much. With that, got to get out of here. Got to let you guys enjoy the weekend. Hope it's a beautiful one. Stay cool. I know it's hot across America. It seems like no matter where you're at, it's hot. So stay cool. Stay hydrated. Make sure that you're watching all those signs if you're out there having too much fun for any type of dehydration or anything like that. Okay, guys? With that, I'm going to get out of here. Say, well, keep your feet in your stirrups. Keep the guns in your holsters. And, of course, keep the Broncos in your heart. Till next time, guys, we're out of here. Good night.